It's time for Living with Victory, a program of hope and encouragement brought to you by Friends of Compassion and listeners like you. Now, here are your hosts, Tony and Laureen Giorgio, with today's message of perseverance.
Jesus is with me when the storm clouds gather, when the winds of this world are blowing strong.
Welcome to Living with Victory. Proving life isn't about waiting for those storms to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain, giving you peace, power, and joy through perseverance and faith, above all in Jesus Christ. Hey, good morning. This is Tony Giorgio. Hey, by the way, tune in to our live stream right now if you want at WPTLradio.net. We are streaming live. Also, remember, if you miss any of our shows, you can podcast. You can download any of our programs at livingwithvictory.org. Hey, just a quick reminder, and I'm really excited about this. Laureen and I would like to send our listeners out there a gift. And we have this little Bible. It's a pocket version, New King James Version of the New Testament. And it's really a neat little Bible you can carry with you, put it in your car. Give it to your friends, family, and maybe a brand new Christian who needs one to carry with them, or someone who is looking for a new life in Jesus Christ. Give them the Bible. And it has a reference section up front, which is really great, where to find help, and it has the page numbers. It has all the verses and the topics. And we are offering this for you, 2 per listener. We're more than happy to give away 2. You want to keep one? Give one away. All you have to do is call 828-926-4600 and leave a message. If we're not around, we'll get back to you. Or you can go to our website at livingwithvictory.org and just click on the contact button and give us a message that you wanted. And also, we have a very limited amount in Spanish. If you have your Spanish friends, if they would like a Bible written in the Spanish language, we've got them. We can send them. Just specify it. Okay, again, it's 828-926-4600 or livingwithvictory.org. Hit the contact button and type us a message. We'll get it, and we will get back to you. And now, without further delay, I want to introduce my co-host, my soulmate for 46 some odd years. She deserves the Purple Heart. My lovely wife, Laureen, with the topic of the day and the verse for the day. Hey, Laureen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's so good to be here. Today's subject is God's value versus ours. 1 Corinthians 12:20 through 26. Now, this is the Amplified Bible. And now there are certainly many limbs and organs, but a single body. And the eye is not able to say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. But instead, there is absolute necessity for the parts of the body that are considered the more weak. And those parts of the body which we consider rather ignoble are the very parts which we invest with additional honor. And our unseemly parts and those unsuitable for exposure are treated with seemliness, modesty, and decorum, which our more presentable parts do not require. But God has so adjusted, mingled, harmonized, and subtly proportioned the parts of the whole body, giving the greater honor and rich endowment to the inferior parts which lack apparent importance, so that there should be no division or discord or lack of adaptation of the parts of the body to each other. But the members, all alike, should have a mutual interest in and care for one another. And if one member suffers, all the parts share the suffering. If one member is honored, all the members share in the enjoyment of it. Now, there is nothing we think of in the negative that cannot be used in a positive way. Everything has a value. Right, Tony?
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm living proof of this here. You know, we record our programs and use the microphones and all of that. And I was looking for a mic stand in order to do justice to the recording because we really didn't have the equipment properly. I had this 40-year-old mic stand that we were housing, I guess, for the last 40 years. That was old and rickety looking, and I used it many, many moons ago. And I'm out looking for something new because this thing isn't going to work. To make a long story short, after buying the new one didn't work. And I said, oh, well, let me see what we can do with this old thing. And I'm telling you, right now, I'm speaking to you with my microphone hooked up to it's got to be 50 years old, this mic stand. I put it together, worked better than the one I had purchased and thought it was going to be great. And here I am. But I gave it such an insignificant value because it was older. There's an example where we really need to adjust our thinking and not be negative just because we think something or somebody is useless.
You know, it's one thing to treat an object that way, but when we do that to people and start to label people, then they can be very damaged from our attitude. When we feel that people don't perform or look the way they should, and we expect certain things from them, but we don't realize how we're devaluing that person. We don't realize how we're damaging and killing their souls. I know the scripture that I read is for the body of Christ, but when we do that to each other, we do devalue each other, and I don't believe God really wants us to be doing that. We have to ask God to help us to see that individual as He sees them. And He does value each and every one. He gives mercy and grace to each person, and we should learn to do that.
We were at a Gaither homecoming, and I had a third ticket, and Laureen spots a person sitting on a bench right outside the Civic Center. His name was Paul, and he was a homeless person, okay? Living in a box under a trestle. You know the story. And she said, why don't you go there and offer him the ticket? And I looked at her for a second, but then I said, well, yeah, why not? And I walked over. There were two people sitting there with him waiting to get in, and he was there, and they were kind of distancing themselves from being too close. And I approached him, and I said to him, how would you like to come to the homecoming? And he looked up kind of shocked, and he said, well, yeah, I'd love to, but I can't afford it. I said, I didn't ask you if you could afford it. I asked you, how would you like to come? And he said, oh, sure. And the two people sitting next to him gave me a stare like the deer in the headlights, because here's a guy. He's living on the streets. He hadn't washed. He didn't look like the rest. And he was thrilled. And I said, okay, fine. Here's your ticket. So he came in. He was there before we were. We sat down. And the music was playing and the hymns were playing. And Bill is asking people how happy they are in what they have and what they do. I look over at this homeless person, Paul, and he raised his hand that he was happy. He was joyous. It just blew me away at him praising the Lord. When we got into the service and the worship was going, he needed to be there. And God wouldn't have given us this thought of giving it to him if we had ignored him and looked at him like you're lesser than. He would have missed out on that spiritual moment that he had with his Lord.
And you just don't know what might have changed his life.
Exactly.
This was a man who used to be the manager of a hotel.
As talking to him, yes, at a large hotel, he was the general manager. This is one of God's children. That's what I'm trying to say. This is where we're missing the boat. And the funny part of it is the title of the homecoming was Give It Away. And that's what we did.
We didn't know that at the time.
We didn't know it. We didn't realize it. We gave it away. Didn't hurt me.
But you know what? We got more back
Oh, yes.
Oh, we were so
to see
blessed.
that man
We were so
praising the
blessed.
Lord.
And I think of it now and the tears are coming to my eyes. He was
Yes.
sitting next to me, and
Yep.
I tell you what, I just hugged him. I just had to hug him and love on him.
What a sweet man, sweet man. You know, that's one of the points here. Careful, God's value of his children is way above ours.
We are all sinners. And I'm telling you, every day we do fall short. But if God didn't show his grace to us, where would we be?
Exactly.
I mean, the privilege that he gave us through his son dying to be able to say, Lord, forgive me. I made this mistake today. Or, you know, and he says, you're forgiven. How simple and wonderful is that? So what right do we have to judge somebody by the way they
look.
do something or look or just don't understand where they're really coming from or really how they're hurting?
Yes.
And how much loving they need. People that are hurting so badly need so much more love.
Exactly. And, you know, just like, you know, the mic stand, I'm saying, it's old, it's ugly, it's stained, it doesn't stand up too well, you know. But its usefulness was exactly like the fancy mic stand that I had to send back. And there's no feelings in a mic stand. You can't get hurt. You can't hurt its feelings. But a child of God who is outside the church trying to come in and you don't let him in because of what you perceive as the right-looking Christian or member or whatever, wow, yeah, you're hurting. You're killing a life. You're destroying a life. We can't do that, folks. We've all done it. We
need to open up and to forget ourselves. And like I say, ask God to be able to see that person as he sees them. You know, especially if someone is annoying you. God puts people in our lives to annoy us, you know, so that we can grow and see what's inside us that we need to get rid of and ask God to help us through. When you find out that this person is hurting and what they're going through, and I've done this myself. I'm not any different than anybody else. You know, we're so quick to judge and think a certain way when we see someone. And you find out what the real truth is, you feel kind of small and want to crawl under a rug. I'm telling you.
I know.
So,
you know, that's true. You know, and another quick one here, when I was a kid, we used to, back then, you know, there weren't homeless people. They were bums, okay?
Yes.
That's the way it was, you know. So we called him Joe the Bum. He was in a neighborhood for many, many years. And us, as teenagers, would help this man out with food, with clothing, whatever. We were teenagers. We didn't know. Come to find out, Joe owned the house across the street from my mother's, and he was a CPA. His wife left him. Life went boom. But don't be judging these people just for the way they look. Let's bring them in.
Yes.
Let's bring them in.
They need to be healed. They need Christ, just like everybody on this earth needs Christ.
And that's what we're here for, folks. We're here for God.
I'm sorry, Tony, we're running out of time.
Okay. Yep, there you go. Me and my big mouth. Well, all right. Remember us, and Tim will give you more information on contact. But this is Tony.
And Laureen.
Hey, you keep dancing in the rain and join us again next week. Hey, tell your friends.
You've been listening to Living with Victory with your hosts Tony and Laureen Giorgio, who for 30 years have advocated for seriously ill children through Compassion Children's Foundation. Many families that have children that receive daily treatments for their illnesses are extremely challenged to even begin to get their kids the life-saving treatments they need due to current gas prices. Compassion Children's Foundation is there to lend a hand. That is our mission, and you can become a partner. Support for this radio ministry comes from Friends of Compassion and listeners like you. Your tax-deductible donations can be sent to Compassion Children's Foundation, P.O. Box 1982, Maggie Valley, North Carolina, 28751. You can also donate through your PayPal account by logging on to livingwithvictory.org. Tony is available to speak to your group or church members. You can call him at 828-926-4600. Podcasts of this and other Living with Victory programs are available at livingwithvictory.org. Thanks for listening.